जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य शीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ब्रह्म मध्व गौड़ीय आचार्य वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य शीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। टैगोर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 36. Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha
Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad chikshaya sakrit Grinanti gunanamani Krishnasyanusmaranti cha Kurmana Kurmani Bhagavachiksha
Vinandi Gunam Hamami
Vinandi Gunamani Krishna Smarantucha Kurmanaya Kurmani Bhagavachiksha Vinandi Gunamani Krishna Smarantucha
Kurvana, while performing, yatra, thereupon, karmani, duties, Bhagavat, the personality of Godhead, shikshaya, by the will of, asakrit, constantly, grinanti, takes on, guna, qualities, namani, names, Krishnasya, of Krishna, anusmaranti, constantly remembers, cha, and. Translation. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers Him, His names and qualities. Kindly repeat. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers Him, His names and qualities. Purport. An expert devotee of the Lord can mold his life in such a way that while performing all kinds of duties, either for this or for the next life, he can constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, qualities, etc. The order of the Lord is distinctly there in Bhagavad Gita. One should work only for the Lord in all spheres of life. In every sphere of life, the Lord should be situated as the proprietor. According to the Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati and Ganesha, the system is that in all circumstances, the representation of Vishnu must be there as Yagneshwara, or the controlling power of such sacrifices. It is recommended that a particular demigod be worshipped for a particular purpose, but still the presence of Vishnu is compulsory in order to make the function proper. Apart from such Vedic duties, even in our ordinary dealings, for example, in our household affairs or in our business or profession, we must consider that the result of all activities must be given over to the Supreme Enjoyer, Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has declared Himself to be the Supreme Enjoyer of everything, the Supreme Proprietor of every planet, and the Supreme Friend of all beings. No one else but Lord Sri Krishna can claim to be the proprietor of everything within His creation. A pure devotee remembers this constantly, and in doing so, he repeats the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, which means that he is constantly in touch with the Lord. The Lord is identical with His name, fame, etc., and therefore, to be associated with His name, fame, etc. constantly means actually to associate with the Lord. The major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. The Lord definitely says that no one is more dear to him than one who is always engaged in preaching work of the Lord's name and fame all over the world. The scientific discoveries of the material world can also be equally engaged in carrying out his order. He wants the message of Bhagavad Gita to be preached amongst his devotees. It may not be so done amongst those who have no credit of austerities, charities, education, etc. Therefore, the attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become his devotees. Lord Chaitanya has taught a very simple method in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. As such, 50% of our income may be spent for this purpose. In this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of the society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service of the Lord, as it is taught by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell of pandemonium to the transcendental abode of the Lord. No one will disagree to partake in a function where good singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered. Everyone will attend such a function, and everyone is sure to feel individually the transcendental presence of the Lord. This alone will help the attendant associate. This alone will help the attendant associate with the Lord and thereby purify himself in spiritual realization. The only condition for successfully executing such spiritual activities is that they must be conducted under the guidance of a pure devotee who is completely free from all mundane desires, fruitive activities, and dry speculation about the nature of the Lord. No one has to discover the nature of the Lord. It is already spoken by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita especially, and in all other Vedic literatures generally. We have simply to accept them in toto and abide by the orders of the Lord. That will guide us to the path of perfection. One can remain in his own position. No one has to change his position, especially in this age of variegated difficulties. The only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with the Lord. And after giving up such lofty, puffed up vanities, one may very submissively receive the orders of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from the lips of a bona fide devotee whose qualification is mentioned above. That will make everything successful without a doubt. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names and qualities. So, Vedic scriptures, if we mount them as 100%, a majority of it, almost close to 100%, is dedicated to explaining how to live successfully in this world. We call it Purushartha. Purushartha basically means activities that are suitable to be pursued by humans, and they are 4 in number. We have Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And the Vedic literatures, Srila Prabhupada compares the Vedic literatures to manuals, and when you buy a device, it comes with a manual, and the purpose of the manual is to help you understand exactly how to operate that device, how to successfully work with it. So in the same way, when the material creation was made for the purpose of souls who want to enjoy separately from Krishna, the Vedic literature is also provided. And it is the manual that helps us understand exactly how this material world works and exactly how we should work in this material world. And because we are here with the agenda of enjoying separately from Krishna, there is a lot of guidelines on how to do it properly. And even though we are so-called enjoying, the Vedic literatures ultimately align us to serve Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, even if some demigod is giving you some blessing, it is only because of me that the blessing is sanctioned. So ultimately when we follow Vedic literature, we become purified. Our consciousness is purified. In the process of pursuing dharma, artha, kama and moksha, eventually, which are called as the purushartha, eventually through gradual purification. We need to highlight the word gradual, because it takes many births, hundreds of births. It takes gradual purification to understand that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante. It takes a lot of time, but they are in the right path. They are in the right path, and they will understand that Vasudevam Sarvam Iti, and they will surrender. That is the purpose of this manual, to eventually make us surrender to Krishna. So there is a large section of the scriptures that deal with dharma, artha, kama and moksha. And the beauty of Vedic life is that we understand all the do's and don'ts very clearly. What is correct, what is good, and what is beyond wrong and right. There are actions that are vikarma, that are not to be done, that will take us away from the absolute truth. And there are actions that are karma, which will give us pious credit. Vikarma gives us impious credit. These are actions that one should not do. And karma is pious credit. And akarma, the Vedic scriptures also talk about akarma. It is neither good nor bad. It gives us zero credit for the action. It's like you do an action, but you don't have any entanglement. And the whole existence, the whole material existence continues as a cycle only because we have some karmic reaction that takes us to the next birth, and then the next birth, and the next birth. So when one performs actions that do not give any karmic reactions, actions that are called akarma, then those actions actually free us from material bondage. And Srimad Bhagavatam is very special. It is a Mahapurana, it is a Amala Purana, because it does not talk about any dharma, artha, kama or moksha. And it talks only about the Pancham Purushartha, the fifth pursuit that is meant for people who are in the human form of life, which is attaining prema Purushartha, prema, which is love for Godhead by performance of a devotional service or bhakti. That is the fifth Purushartha. This, and Bhagavatam kicks out these four religiosity, economic development, sense gratification and ultimately liberation, and talks only about pure devotional service. Then it is meant for, that means Bhagavatam is meant for people who are devotees of Krishna. So how is it relevant for people who are not devotees of Krishna? Then Bhagavatam is giving these guidelines. While performing duties, you are doing duties, just do it according to the order of Sri Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada elaborates in the purport that no one has to change his position, especially in this age of variegated difficulties. If somebody is going to say that, you have to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna, then which is the topmost, everything is to be done as per Krishna's orders, not everybody will be ready. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport brings Bhagavatam, makes Bhagavatam something that is relatable to people. He explains how we can do dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all of these things, and we do it without changing anything in our life. One can remain in his own position. No one has to change his position. And the only Prabhupada says the only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with God. So when we talk about dharma means we do some activities with the aim of getting some artha, some benefit. We are doing some action to get benefit. So you do that action, but don't do the action with the idea of becoming God. Do the action with the idea of getting some benefit, that is okay, but not when we do an action to get some benefit as per the Vedic scripture, that is called pious activity. Like for example, I want to become well educated. So if you worship Saraswati, she is the goddess of knowledge. So if you worship Saraswati, that is considered pious. But if you worship Saraswati according to the order of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that is perfect. Then you are not just practicing the 4 Purusharthas, you are also practicing the Pancham Purushartha. You are having a proper understanding of how to do Vedic action. So Saraswati is the servant of Lord Sri Krishna. I want some education, I am worshipping, and I have the clear understanding that even if I worship Goddess Saraswati for getting knowledge, only if Lord Sri Krishna is pleased can I be having that blessing from her. I want some money, I can worship Lakshmi. I want a good wife, I can worship Lord Shiva. I want a good husband, I can worship Goddess Parvati, Uma. So I want some obstacles to be removed, I can worship Ganesha. So there is like a whole spectrum of demigods whom we worship in a pious way to get some pious credit and some result. But the proper understanding is that we should worship them in relation to Krishna. Then we are not just practicing dharma, artha, kama, but we are also practicing worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotion. And when we get money, then we want to spend it in doing good for others. We give charity and all that, then it is mode of goodness. You use it for performing actions that are harmful for yourself or to others, like you take drugs or smoke or enjoy illicit actions, then that is impious. But if you want to come out of it and go towards Pancham Purushartha, Prabhupada gives the guidelines. A major portion of our artha, monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Not only should we give the profit of our earnings to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. So that is how we use our money. When dharma is there, worshipping different demigods, performing yagya and so on, have a clear understanding, always establish the Yageshwar is Vishnu. Artha is there, don't just utilize it for sense gratification, which causes bondage. Don't just utilize it for doing pious activities, for serving others. You may get some piety, you may get some good result, but still it is bondage. Utilize the major portion of the monetary income to serve others. So that is artha. So dharma, artha, and kama is sense gratification. Sense gratification, if you do in an irregulated way, then you enjoy with somebody who is not your wife or husband. You enjoy things that harm you and that lead you to hell. Vikarma, in enjoyment in mode of ignorance. And if you are enjoying with the in a regulated way, as per the Vedic scriptures, you want to enjoy with the man or with the woman, they should be your husband. You should not, all the other ladies should be seen as mothers. So that is Chanakya's advice. So there is a regulated way of enjoyment also. And if we enjoy in that way, we get piety. So if you want to escape this impious and pious actions, and if you want to dedicate it to Krishna, then how does that enjoyment go? Srila Prabhupada says, no one will disagree to partake in a function where there is good singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered. So that is the enjoyment for devotees. We take nice prasadam, we chant the names of the Lord and dance, and we establish this activity is done under the guidance of pure devotee. The Sunday feast or Namhat program or Bhakti Vriksha program, all these are places where we organize such get together. People do party for enjoyment. And our party is we bring people together, we sing, we dance, and we take prasadam. And all of this is done under the guidance of pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. All these are done under his guidance. And so that is the enjoyment, that is the aspect of enjoyment that actually relieves one from mundane enjoyment. We want to enjoy, this is how we will enjoy. And dharma, artha, kama is enjoyment, and moksha is liberation. This class of people whose pursuit is liberation, they are fed up of dharma, artha, kama, they are not anymore interested in that, so they want to give up. Frequently we may experience that in our day-to-day life. Like I love rasagulla, so somebody gives me a rasagulla, I'm so happy. And then in the feast it's like unlimited, so they say, we want one more. I say, yes please, so one more rasagulla. And then the third is, Mataji, you want one more? I say, yeah, why not, the one more. And then there's so much remaining, you want one more? And then the greed steps in, yeah, why not, one more rasagulla. And then they said, Mataji, so much remaining, would you like? No, I don't want any more. And then for 4 days you don't want to stand by Govindas and look at the white balls, it's like, I don't think I like rasagulla anymore, So sometimes when you are too much entangled in this cycle, you may experience some detachment, because there is no real rasa in material activities. So after some time there is punar charvita charvanam, there is nothing to enjoy there. So you will experience a so-called detachment. And you think like now you are totally like above all this eating and everything. And then after some time, to your great surprise, if they are serving rasagulla in the feast, you will still want it. And that is how it is a cycle, so that the point where you thought that you are actually liberated from this desire to enjoy is actually not existing, because you come back into that cycle. You want to enjoy further. So that is a cycle. You continuously go on. You pray for something nice, then you get some material facility. You use that facility to enjoy your senses, and then because of too much of enjoyment, you feel some disgust. You try to give up, but because you are here in this material world with the idea of enjoying, after some time you will go back in that cycle. You will go back in the cycle and you are enjoying and accepting, rejecting, and so on. And how do we dovetail that in Krishna consciousness? There is one class of people who want to get this liberation with the idea of becoming one with the God. So Srila Prabhupada says the only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with the Lord. And after giving up such lofty, puffed up vanity, Srila Prabhupada says this is lofty, puffed up vanity, to think that at some point you can become God. One may very submissively receive the orders of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam from the lips of a bona fide devotee whose qualification is mentioned above. It is a pure devotee. The qualification, Srila Prabhupada says, is a pure devotee who is completely free from all mundane desires, fruitive activities, and dry speculation about the nature of Lord. He is a pure devotee. So this is the path of moksha for devotees. We give up the habit of dry speculation, and it is very much applicable. We may not aspire for becoming God. Srila Prabhupada's purpose, and our acharyas in our parampara, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's called Simha Guru. They very clearly they have established this idea that the soul and God are qualitatively one, but quantitatively different, like ocean of water and a drop of water. We are not God, so that, but sometimes devotees extend this dry speculation in many aspects of Krishna consciousness, and like we speculate about verses in Bhagavatam, or we try to understand some instructions of Srila Prabhupada in a way that suits us. So we are not directly in the danger of trying to become one with God or anything, because the teachings of Prabhupada are very clear. Prabhupada safeguards us. But inside there is this danger of speculation and trying to put the advice in a way that is very suitable for our needs. So that is also dry speculation. So we have to give up this habit of speculating about the philosophy, trying to tune the philosophy to suit our need. And we have to hear, anytime we are not clear, what does that mean? How can I understand this? Is this idea correct? Oh, this sounds like a Mayavad idea. Is Bhagavatam actually talking about impersonal Brahman being? Anytime we read Bhagavatam, any kind of doubt comes, we have to do what Srila Prabhupada says. Go to some pure devotee and very submissively receive the orders of the Lord from the lips of a bona fide devotee. So that is the path for us. We do not speculate on ideas where we have doubts, but we ask them. And it can be extended to variety of situations in life, where we are not sure whether or not this path is correct as per the Krishna conscious standard. Instead of just making a decision based on our speculative or imperfect understanding, we should ask the guidance of senior devotees from the lips of bona fide devotee who are qualified as mentioned above. And when devotees, so dharma, artha, kama, moksha, none of it is banned for devotees. We are allowed to do any kind of household affairs or business or profession, and we should offer the results to the supreme enjoyer, Lord Krishna. We can get any amount of income, but we should utilize major portion of this monetary income to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. And we can also have our quota of calm by good singing, dancing and refreshment. And we can also have our quota of moksha by giving up dry speculation and hearing from the lips of bona fide devotee. So in this way, while performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him. When we do these activities in this way, we start constantly remembering the Lord, his name and his qualities. And that is perfection of devotional service. We attain the Pancham Purushartha. Thank you. Any questions or doubts? Hare Krishna.
I had a question that we heard a verse yesterday, 1535, where Narada Muni said Vyasadeva that if you engage in activities for pleasing Krishna, that's for Bhakti Yoga, and that leads to knowledge also. So I'm trying to understand that what is the context of this verse, in the sense that why is Narada Muni speaking this verse? Can you help me understand the context in which this is being spoken? The previous verses, all the context in which this is being spoken. Like, why is Narada Muni giving this instruction to Vyasadeva?
Do you think 35 and 36 are talking about two different things?
I'm asking you, I'm not sure. I'm asking you to help me understand.
35 reads, whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Can you kindly help me understand that word? Concomitant factor? Insignificant? Comes with it. So, in my limited understanding, what is the first line of the verse is talking about the Pancham Purushartha. Now you work, whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, and Bhakti is the fifth or transcendental loving service. So that prem is the fifth item of Purushartha. And then in this verse it says that when you perform duty accordingly to satisfy the Lord, then you start remembering him, his name, qualities. I think they are very much in sync. Are they not?
Sure, I didn't think this way. As I understand, you were saying that in the previous verse, Narada Muni was speaking about doing karma for the pleasure of Krishna, Haritoshna, and in this one, he's expanding on that point that how do you do that work also by remembering Krishna while you're doing the work. So in that sense, they're connected.
We can, over in Bhagavatam, we can be rest assured that in Bhagavatam there will be nowhere any idea that propagates. Bhagavatam kicks out all those ideas that are meant for only religiosity, economic development, sense gratification or liberation. Those ideas will not exist at all. But there is constant guidelines on how to do those activities in accordance with the teachings of Krishna to attain the fifth perfection, which is the fifth pursuit is prem, how to attain that, So the Bhagavatam only talks about that. And what is called knowledge becomes a coexisting factor. Is that I do not know the Bhakti Yoga, knowledge, satisfaction, jnanam, yat, dependent, adhinam. Knowledge becomes, the Sanskrit word is adhinam or dependent. So the knowledge becomes subservient to devotional service. There is no walk, there is no yoga that can exist without Bhakti Yoga. Neither knowledge, nor dhyana, nor jnana, nor karma. There is none of the yogas, none of the systems of practice which are called as yoga will ever be effective if the element of bhakti does not exist there. So the previous verse we can accept, we can see it as without bhakti, bhakti knowledge is subservient to bhakti. We can look at it in the, if to align the word knowledge, how do we understand that? We can understand that knowledge is dependent on bhakti. Whatever knowledge we get will only help us develop our bhakti more. Can somebody become a devotee without knowledge? Yes, it is possible. Just by chanting Hare Krishna we can go back. There is nothing else we need to do. You can just chant Hare Krishna purely and we can go back. Now no other knowledge. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a disciple. The only service he was doing was cleaning the plate, the paraphernalia. He was cleaning it so nicely that there was a hole in that plate, and Maharaj Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur commented, through that hole he will go back to Godhead. You don't need any kind of a knowledge, or you don't need to have any philosophical speculation. They are all dependent on bhakti. Is that okay, Prabhu? Yes, Prabhu.
Not just speaking in relation to the explanation just now here, very true that bhakti is not dependent on knowledge, and that knowledge and vairagya and jnana are things that fall out of bhakti. Bhakti is accompanied by the Bhagavatam and Sanskrit as well. So in light of that, how we understand statements by Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada says that in a letter Prabhupada writes, "You are restless because you do not read my books." Or Prabhupada himself states that there is one statement. Prabhupada states that in order for you to be able to chant Hare Krishna, you should read Srimad Bhagavatam. So how do we understand this statement? Please.
Reading Srimad Bhagavatam is not just getting knowledge. In fact, any of Srila Prabhupada's books for that matter. When we read Bhagavatam, we are not getting just knowledge, we are getting prema, we are getting love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada wanted that all the devotees will study Srimad Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta. Recently in one of the posts of my spiritual master, he was telling how Mayapur Institute was offering him honorary degree for Bhakti Vaibhav. My spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, got his Bhakti Shastri degree by writing exam when Srila Prabhupada was here, in Lotus building, outside Prabhupada's room. He did his Bhakti Shastri exam and Prabhupada gave him Bhakti Shastri. And now my spiritual master was saying that I'm going to, from that time he has been continuously studying Bhagavatam, and he has studied many times. Now he was, to inspire his disciples, he has said, I'm going to study now systematically. I'm going to do all the exams, and I'm going to get my Bhakti Vaibhav and Bhakti Vedanta now. So you can see the taste one gets by continuous association of Bhagavatam. More we study, more we get in touch with Krishna, and how much ever life may be tough, when we come in touch with Bhagavatam, we are transported to a dimension which is real, and we can very clearly understand that whatever suffering we are going through here, it is all, it actually gives us this understanding that what I am doing and is just like some kind of action, but my real job is somewhere else. This is my real world. Listening to Bhagavatam and dwelling in that dimension. So we don't categorize the knowledge of Bhagavatam as just knowledge. When we touch Bhagavatam, we are in touch with Krishna. Krishna, it's Swayam Krishna. When Krishna is Dham Pagate Dharma Jnanadivi Saha Kalaudrashta Dishamesa Puranarko Dunoditaha. When Krishna disappeared, he reappeared in this form as Bhagavatam to re-establish the principles of religion. So and that is why it is important. And when in all the books of Srila Prabhupada, there Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada will quote Bhagavatam, Prabhupada will quote Bhagavad Gita. So they are all non-different, and they are meant for inspiring our devotional service. They are not just a dry the knowledge. There is Vedic literature, then there is a Karma Kanda section, which is major part of Vedas. And then there is like 96% is Karma Kanda. You want this benefit, you worship this one. You want that benefit, you worship that one. You want this, you do that yagya. 96%. And the 4% is Jnana Kand, and then inside that 4%, a minuscule percent is about pure devotional service. So that Jnana Kand is what we say as knowledge. But Bhagavatam is beyond that. It is in that minuscule percentage which talks about pure devotional service. So this is the only place where you get real knowledge. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Thank you for the explanation. So, to be more specific, could you kindly explain what is the correlation between chanting Hare Krishna and reading Srimad? When Prabhupada says in order to chant Hare Krishna, you should read Srimad. I get that it's not ordinary mundane knowledge, it is giving prema, and of course it's transcendental, it's all about the Lord, not different from the Lord. So what is the specific thing being understood this statement? What is the specific?
Bhagavatam is association with pure devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, Narada, and what is the association between chanting and association of pure devotees? Only by blessing of pure devotees can you chant Krishna's name. Otherwise, you can, without getting that name from the lips of pure devotee, it is nama coming from the lips of a non-devotee is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. It has no effect. So when we associate with Bhagavatam, we are associating with pure devotees. And only by that mercy we are able to develop the taste for chanting. But there, when you hear what Bali Maharaj was going through, or when you hear what Prahlad Maharaj was going through, that strengthens our faith to take up our devotional practice of chanting or attending Bhagavatam class or worshipping deities. It gives us the faith to do it in a more serious way. So reading Bhagavatam increases our faith because we are associating with. But Bhagavatam from pure devotee. It should be under the guidance of pure devotee who is completely free from mundane desires, fruitive activities and dry speculation. You cannot expect the same result if you are reading some Bhagavatam from some XYZ press, because they are not going to. It is like milk touched by serpent, you won't get that. So because it's presented by pure devotees, about pure devotees of Krishna, and when we are associating with Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, and through him to all the other pure devotees presented in Bhagavatam, our faith is increased. And only through them can we chant. And that's my understanding. If somebody wants to add something more. Yes, Prabhuji.
Last question. So are you saying now that, because this is a big society, right? In this society there are many different classes of people. Some people are also not interested in Krishna, some people there are all different stages of development. I can understand the class that you're giving. You're giving a class for everyone. But are you saying now that we should study the Bhagavatam sections, the Anakanda section? We should those people that are not karmic or completely karmic, we should guide them in a karmic way or to satisfy them. Or are you introducing other literatures or?
I'm so sorry. I should have spoken very, very inappropriately for you to have come to that conclusion, because even when Vyasadev compiled the Vedas and divided them into four and compiled Bhagavad Gita, after dividing the Vedas into four, he compiled Mahabharata. He catered to the need of every class of society. Stri, Shudra, Vaishya, Brahma, everybody can read something. People in mode of ignorance can read some Puranas, people in mode of goodness can read something. After he compiled everything, still he was very unhappy. And then Narada, when he was sitting there so morose, then Narada came and said, what was the point in all of this? Why did you have to do all these things? What have you actually done is you have disturbed the people. You have disturbed the people's mind by telling them all these. If somebody is in mode of ignorance, you put them in some level of mode of ignorance worship, they are going to develop very strong attachment there, and it is not going to be easy to help them come up. So this is all based. So you are a very pure person and you are a very wonderful devotee. So do what you have to do. Devotees glorify Krishna, just to do that. And by doing that, and he creates this Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam, it is a complete scripture, because whatever might be your intention while you are coming to Bhagavatam, it will ultimately purify you. Akama, Sarvakama, Mokshakama, Udarai. Any desire, you're coming without any desire. You are coming with every possible material desire. You are coming with the desire to attain moksha. Everybody will be asked to surrender to Purusham Param. You surrender to Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the purpose of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam only glorifies the Pancham Purusha, which is the doing devotional service to obtain prema. So this verse is not saying you should do karma kanda, jnana kanda.
You talked about worshipping the Saraswati and others. Is that in the Bhagavatam? It's not in the Bhagavatam.
I am reading Srila according to Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati and Ganesha, the system is that in all circumstances the representation of Vishnu must be there as Yagneshwara, or the controlling power of such sacrifices. So if you know somebody who is a karma kandi, the guidelines is not to encourage them to continue that, but the guidelines is that you tell them who is the actual Yageshwara, so that they know that their yagya will be successful only if you may worship Saraswati. But Saraswati can give you benediction only if Krishna tells her to give benediction. You may worship Lakshmi for money. You may worship Kartikeya to become very like a powerful leader or whatever. Everybody has a role. But if you see anybody doing that, you tell them, any of these people whom you are worshipping are not going to be able to give you any benediction if Yageshwara Krishna does not sanction. This is teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So instead of worshipping all of these people, why don't you directly worship? If you know Narendra Modi, why do you go to somebody else? Let us just hook to the highest power. We don't need to go to the lower ministers. There is minister in charge of water, minister in charge of electricity, minister in charge of industrial development. But ultimately they are all under the Prime Minister. And whatever he sanctions only, they all can execute. So why should we go to all these ministers when we can directly go to Prime Minister? We have to directly take shelter of Krishna instead of worshipping these different demigods. So if we are in a society where all these different demigod worships are happening, we should tell them who is the Yageshwar. That is the guidelines offered by Bhagavatam. Is that okay, Prabhu?
People don't even know how to worship their demigods. Actually, confusion out of his causes, he says, okay, you come to me.
Yes, yes. In this age, worship of demigods is only a source of confusion. Many people, even in outside a Christian world, when you see that they don't have any solid answers, they're looking for many things, what happens to me after death, and so many confusion. When they try to approach Hinduism as it is presented today, they actually get bewildered, because it's like 33 crores of gods. They can't handle one. Then you want them to handle 33 crores without giving them the perspective. It can become a very frustrating religion. It can cause a lot of dissension amongst, Ganesh is only correct and Shiva is only correct and Parvati is the topmost and Lakshmi is, everybody will fight for what is correct. That is why Vyasadeva said, why this job, what is the purpose at all, what purpose does it serve, to put all these different categories of compiling it all. It was no need, only Bhagavatam is enough. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, let's keep Bhagavatam and burn all the books in the world, that this knowledge is enough to guide us to go back to Godhead, and that is, and truly it is so. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।